Busy weekend. We told you, Jack, kind of the timeline. If you're not the biggest recruiting, follower, that's fine. I get it. But at the same time, the recruiting is your lifeblood of your program. It's where, a few summers ago, Arch Manning committed to Texas. And then there's Anthony Hill and Colin Simmons, and all these guys become the cornerstones of your team. And so when their names come down, you don't know them just yet, but you probably will, the way Sark is recruited. So the month of June is really, really important. With the way the recruiting cycles have sped up, because you now sign your recruiting class for the 2026, kids that are seniors in high school in 2026.
Yeah.
They sign December the 4th. Like it's the first Wednesday in December. And their high school seasons, their senior seasons will start, and by then they want to have their decisions made. So June, 3 big weekends of official visits. The Longhorns have, added 2 more this weekend, which is huge, and they're on the defensive line. Kenny Baker is the new defensive line coach at Texas. He replaced Bo Davis, who's now in the NFL. And, the question was when he came in, remember, when Kenny Baker was hired by Steve Sarkisian, he was working with Miami Dolphins. He had a college background, but he was in the NFL, which is something Sark likes. He wants, his coaches to be able to teach and develop, but also to recruit with the idea of college mindset, but also pro mindset. How do you get to the National Football League? Sark runs his program like a pro team, right? You want to get to the pros, listen to guys who know how to get to the pros. And Kenny Baker, but that's always you're not sure what type of recruiter a coach is going to be when they come in. Well, he's been red hot. On Saturday, the Longhorns added another big human. Official word that 2026 4-star defensive tackle Vodney Cleveland. Just think Rodney with a V. Vodney Cleveland. Name. Cool name.
Vodney Cleveland.
6'3", 325. He's from Parker, Alabama. He chose Texas over Florida, North Carolina, Miami, and Alabama. And early in his recruitment, Cleveland was viewed as an in-state player because his uncle, Don Page, played at Auburn. And then he had committed to Alabama at one point after his sophomore year. Well, now he's coming to Texas. And how about this quote from Vodney Cleveland, who was asked what flipped him. He said, Texas is definitely different from any atmosphere I've seen. Everyone is tougher, or everyone is together. Everyone is on the same page. Strong family vibes. That's what you want from a program. So the atmosphere is what won him. He's a 4-star interior defensive tackle, big human, 8th overall prospect in the nation for the class of 2026. And then yesterday, another big need position is the edge.
Yeah.
Because right now Texas has Colin Simmons. They have Ethan Burke. They're really deep at the edge position. But Colin Simmons is 2 more years. Ethan Burke's a senior. Colton Vossick's up there in years. You have to replace.
Trey Moore.
Yeah, Trey Moore's a senior. This came down yesterday, as it says here in Inside Texas, the bomb that dropped on the recruiting world. 5-star edge rusher Richard Wesley out of California committed to Texas. And so now you add a defensive tackle and an edge through this recruiting cycle. The number is at 15 now of your commitments. Your quarterback is Diabell for the class of 2026, who just won the Elite 11 competition. You're stocking up on O-line, D-line. You got a kicker and a punter in this class, and you still think Sark is looking at 8-10 more between now and because remember, the dead period hits in July. So they try to get all this is your official visits, face-to-face, meet the parents, campus visits, all this stuff, put on the show, the Lamborghinis and all of it. But Richard Wesley, the next name, and they kind of sold him on the idea of, hey, you're the heir apparent to Colin Simmons. Where Colin Simmons was, you become.
Yeah, and it feels a little bit like Arch and Colin Simmons, right? With Diabell and what's his name, Richard Wesley?
Richard Wesley.
We're recruiting dudes with old man names.
Yeah.
Vodney Cleveland, he feels like that dude should be on a line with William the Refrigerator Perry.
Vodney Cleveland.
Yeah, these are old dude names.
Parker, Alabama.
But, recruiting big men, anytime you hear, even if you're not a recruiting head, 5-star edge, there's something to get excited about there. 5-star edge, 5-star quarterback, 5-star receiver, some of those positions. But, yeah, it's if you want to go ahead and gloat about your team's recruiting rating in June, all the power to you. But I think Texas is going to be right there at the top come season's end, as they always are.
Yeah, it is. That's what Texas does right now, and building the roster. And as we talked to Bobby Burton, if you were with us last Friday, we talked to Bobby Burton, and I asked Bobby about how the new house settlement and it changes your recruiting strategy, and Bobby said pretty significantly. You have a salary cap now. You've got to. It is different. I know people are skeptical of that, but you can't throw, the dollar numbers around like you for the Wild Wild West years that you could all over the country, and certainly even Austin. It's a more restrained thing. So you got to target. Find your pieces that you want, your quarterbacks, your offensive line, defensive tackle. Here's your edge. They're also coming after a 5-star linebacker out of the state of Georgia who they're kind of selling on the idea of where Anthony Hill was, you are. You become our next quarterback of our defense. So we'll keep an eye on that name too as Texas moves forward into the month of June here at the final week or so.
Sark's greedy. Sark's getting greedy.
Well, because this is how you stack recruiting classes.
Yeah, I know, because he can.
And that's that's what we're trying to do. On the baseball side of things, Will Gasparino has entered the transfer portal. Not shocking. We talked about this last week when the Longhorns added the portal pieces that were coming in. And you're like, well, how many outfielder spots do you have? And then somebody texted and said, what about Jonah Williams? Like, oh, yeah, Jonah Williams. So, there's only so many spots in the outfield. And Gasparino came in with such a claim because his father is the director of the minor league system for the Dodgers. And he's a really good young prospect. But, both years he's really shown big holes in his swing. And this year he became a liability in the box at the end of the year when you really needed good at-bats. Way too many holes in the swing. He had a great stretch where he might have been the hottest hitter in college baseball for about a 3-week to a month stretch, March into April, and then he just went cold. And so Will Gasparino into the portal, likely headed back to the West Coast, which is good for him. And Texas has already added pieces, and Jake Maroknik that we mentioned from Butler, Caleb Freeman, Aiden Robbins. We told you about him last week. He's another speedy outfielder that they brought in. Jonah Williams already there. Easton Winfield is having a really good summer so far. He's still a part of that outfield, so there's plenty of room in the air. Tommy Farmer and Will Gasparino, both the California kids, look like they're headed back to Cali as Texas. They're going to lose 3 draft picks in Rylan Galvan, Jalen Flores, and Max Ballou. So you have to replace that. The name to watch now for Texas in the transfer portal is this catcher from Notre Dame. There's a catcher from Notre Dame who's one of he's up for the Buster Posey Award. He's one of the better catchers. He's in the portal. And Texas is hoping that he could be in the mix for them to replace Rylan Galvan behind the plate. Because everybody's chasing LSU now. Yeah. Everyone knows you're chasing LSU because Jay Johnson, what he's done in 4 years, he's won 2 championships and developing pitching out the wazoo. You have to match that. And, catcher, pitcher. Texas did add a pitcher over the weekend through the transfer portal, a lefty for the Arm Farm. Cal Higgins, a left-hander who starred at Western Kentucky this past year, 6'4", 245-pounder. He will join the Longhorns for the final year of his eligibility. So that's all going down in college baseball. Cal Higgins in, Will Gasparino out for the Longhorns. Meanwhile, for Texas football, as you said, old man names. Vodney Cleveland and Richard Wesley are in the boat for the Longhorns. 15 recruits for the class of 2026. They had a big weekend. We'll keep you posted as we move forward. Here's a good from CB on the text line, 512-834-1027. CB says it was 3 years ago today that Arch Manning committed to Texas.
There you go, CB.
There you go. And
He's good at that, man.
Who among us thought he would still be here 3 years later with only starting 2 games? I think I was okay with it. I thought because the Manning family had been unlike any other recruitment and made it pretty clear their intention. This is where he wanted to be. And he's still here ready, waiting his turn, and ready to take the reins for the Texas Longhorns in 2025. I believe we're 68 days to the start of the college football season now.